Martin Cruz, at 38 years old, would be found unresponsive in his jail cell. Around 10:15 p.m. on October 10th, 2020, he was taken to Eskenazi Hospital, where he died about 74 minutes later. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department homicide detectives, along with the coroner's office, then began their investigation. To understand what brought this violence upon him, you have to understand what he was in jail for and why he was surrounded by some of the most vicious inmates. See, people have it twisted. They think you hurt a child, you rape a woman or something like that, then you can't be around the violent inmates that didn't do that. No, you're just as dangerous. You're sicker, you're demented, you're twisted, you're just as demonic. Actually, you're more dangerous. He was in jail on multiple felony charges: child molestation, dissemination of harmful materials to minors, was found lying face down in the middle of the cell with blood under his head. By the third shift, deputies who started their shifts 15 minutes prior, finding him according to the probable cause affidavit. It was an open bay community-style jail cell, which features sets of bunk beds, a day room, tables, showers, bathrooms, and TVs according to the affidavits. When detectives went to the cell, they found a large pile of clothes, torn sheets with possible blood and possible hairs in the bunk area. Through the investigation, according to the affidavit, the attack on Cruz started because other people in the cell said he was a child molester. "It's about to go down," one of the inmates said before the attack. The attack began after dinner, when inmates drifted back to their bunks. Witnesses say Cruz was kicked off his bed before he could even process what was happening. The attack began after dinner, when inmates drifted back to their bunks. Witnesses say Cruz was kicked off his bed before he could even process what was happening. He was dragged to the back of the cell as he tried to get away. They had him cut off from any line of sight. The first punches landed to his face. As he screamed for help, someone stuffed a towel in his mouth to gag him. He begged for help, telling them to stop, but they told him if he made another sound, they would kill him. Just as always, the predators become the victims in prison, as the cops ignored him and he's begging grown men for help. Sound familiar? And that's when things would really escalate. Cruz was hogtied with a bedsheet. His head was shoved into a toilet and bleach poured all over him. Inmates would stomp on his genitals. Food trays were used as weapons, smashed against his head and back. Multiple witnesses described inmates jumping as high as they could and stomping on his skull. For more than an hour, Cruz was tortured. Guards didn't intervene. No alarms were triggered. At some point, Cruz stopped screaming. Witnesses said he was dragged to the center of the room, limp, yet still breathing, and beaten again. That's when they hogtied him tighter. They stomped his head until he stopped moving. One witness said they used a Marion County issued cup to bludgeon him, while another used a metal food tray to crush his ribs. By the time it ended, Cruz's body was destroyed. Started around 6:45 p.m., would end at 10:15 p.m., nearly 3 hours after his original transfer to the unit. Guards initially missed him during their first rounds. It wasn't until a later shift checked that they realized he was dead. Autopsy findings was 18 separate head injuries, including hemorrhages and neck dislocations, 14 injuries to his torso, including a fractured sternum and 10 broken ribs, lacerations to his liver, spleen, pancreas, and kidneys, bruising across his entire body. Despite Cruz, the Chomo, being assaulted multiple times before, despite him begging the corrections officers for protection, and despite the warning attack that busted his ear open on October 7th, no jail staff or criminals were charged at the time of this incident. Yet, as time would go on, they would have an indictment sealed. David Sparks, at the age of 27, he was facing an armed robbery, battery with a deadly weapon at the time of the Chomo's death. According to the probable cause, Sparks was one of the first inmates to physically engage Cruz during the attack. Eyewitnesses claim Sparks wrapped his fist in torn bedsheets and delivered repeated blows to Cruz's chest, ribs, and face. At one point, he allegedly used a plastic jail-issue cup to strike Cruz in the head until it cracked. He would plead guilty to voluntary manslaughter in the death of the Chomo and get sentenced to 25 years. Ravon Donaldson, at 34, he was facing meth trafficking and a felon in possession of a firearm. His role, according to charging documents, Donaldson acted as the lookout, During the early stages of the assault, he positioned himself near the tier entrance to ensure the officers would not walk in. Later, witnesses' statements indicated Donaldson joined the beating, kicking Cruz's legs to keep him restrained while others struck his upper body. He is currently still fighting the case as he's not been convicted for the Chomo's homicide. Clayton Hagen, at 23, he'd be in jail for facing attempted murder and armed carjacking. Witnesses describe Hagen as the one inmate who used a food tray as a weapon during the attack. Multiple statements allege that he struck Cruz in the back of the head repeatedly, bending the tray from the fork. According to multiple witnesses, he would say, if he's not gone yet, he will be. He would be convicted in 2024 of the murder and battery by enhancement, catching a 45-year sentence. Jeremy Satterfield doing 69 years for a murder in 2018. Though not identified as a primary attacker, he allegedly blocked the Chomo from being able to exit the tier door. Without enough evidence, no charge would be filed. He'd go back to prison to finish his 69 years. Last is Lance Hatcher, serving 65 years for robbery and murder. They say he hogtied and helped beat the Chomo, yet they sent him back to prison to do his 65 years. Damn. Stay out, stay free, us.